Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the transport ship, watching as the Stellar Military Academy came into view. The massive structure floated serenely against the backdrop of the Centauri Nebula, its crystalline spires reflecting the purple and blue gases that swirled through space. Behind her, Marcus Rodriguez whistled softly. "They really went all out with the architecture, didn't they?" he said, pressing his face against the transparent aluminum. "Makes Earth's space stations look like tin cans." "That's because they've had an extra 1,000 years to perfect it," Kaya Williams replied, not looking up from her tablet. She was still reviewing the Academy's cultural guidelines, determined not to make any diplomatic mistakes on their first day. The transport ship glided toward the docking bay, its gentle movements a stark contrast to the bone-rattling launches they'd grown used to on Earth. Sarah watched as other ships arrived, each carrying students from different worlds. Some vessels were organic-looking, others purely geometric, and a few seemed to bend space itself. "Look at that one." Sarah pointed to a ship that appeared to be made entirely of light. "That must be the Luminal delegation. Their entire civilization exists in a quantum state." Marcus grinned. "And somehow they still got here before us." The ship's AI announced their imminent arrival, its voice carefully modulated to sound pleasant to human ears. The three cadets gathered their belongings. Regulation bags containing only the essentials and a few precious items from home. Sarah touched the gaming pendant around her neck, a good luck charm from her pro-gaming days. The docking procedure was seamless, and as the airlock cycled, they got their first taste of the Academy's atmosphere. Literally. The air had a slight floral scent, designed to be comfortable for the majority of oxygen-breathing species. "Remember," Kaya whispered as they approached the reception area, "we're not just representing Earth. We're proving that humans can adapt to galactic society." The reception hall was a marvel of alien architecture, with gravity-defying platforms and holographic signs floating at various heights. Species of all shapes and sizes moved through the space with practiced ease. A group of ethereal beings floated near the ceiling, their translucent bodies rippling with colors. Insectoid creatures scuttled efficiently along designated pathways, while humanoid aliens of various hues and forms gathered in small groups. Their arrival didn't go unnoticed. Conversations quieted as the three humans entered, and Sarah could feel dozens of eyes and other sensory organs focusing on them. She straightened her back, remembering the lengthy briefings about first impressions. A tall, elegant figure approached them. Administrator Villani was exactly as described in their briefing materials, four-armed, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Her movements were fluid and precise, characteristic of her low-gravity homeworld. "Welcome to the Stellar Military Academy," she said, her universal translator perfectly matching her lip movements. "We are honored to have Earth's first cadets join us." Her expression shifted slightly, showing what Sarah hoped was a smile. "Though I must admit, your world's classification caused quite a stir among the board." Marcus stepped forward, offering the traditional greeting they'd practiced. "The honor is ours, Administrator. We hope to learn from the galaxy's finest." A small crowd had gathered around them, other cadets trying to get a glimpse of the Deathworlders. Sarah caught fragments of whispered conversations, evolved on a heavy gravity world. Their bones are reinforced with calcium. They can survive extreme temperature variations. Administrator Villani gestured gracefully with her upper arms. "Your quarters have been specially modified to Earth standard gravity and atmosphere, though I understand you can adapt to a wide range of conditions." "We're quite flexible," Kaya responded diplomatically. Sarah suppressed a smile, remembering their physical training for various gravity levels. What had been grueling endurance tests for them would have been potentially lethal for many of the species present. As they followed the administrator toward the residential section, a news alert flashed across the grand holographic display dominating the hall center. The Vraxan Empire had taken another system, their mechanical fleets advancing with ruthless efficiency. The mood in the hall darkened noticeably. Sarah exchanged glances with her fellow cadets. They'd read about the war, of course. 10 years of strategic stalemate against an enemy that thought in pure logic and moved with perfect precision. As they walked through the Academy's gleaming halls, none of them could have guessed that in less than a year, they would find a way to end that war. For now, they were just 3 humans taking their first steps into a larger universe, carrying with them Earth's greatest weapons: adaptability, creativity, and the ability to see patterns where others saw only chaos. The combat simulation chamber hummed with energy as Sarah Chen stepped onto the starting platform. Above her, the observation deck was crowded with spectators. Word had spread quickly about the human cadets' performance in basic training. Cadet Chen. The AI instructor's voice resonated through the chamber. This simulation is designed to test reaction time and tactical processing. The current record is held by graduate Zixtal of the Centaurian cluster. Are you prepared to begin? Sarah rolled her shoulders, feeling the familiar pre-competition tension she knew from her gaming tournaments. Ready. The chamber transformed around her. Holographic obstacles materialized, creating a complex 3-dimensional maze. Targeting drones buzzed to life, their practice sensors primed to register hits. The standard course that most species completed in around 30 minutes. Initiating sequence in 3, 2, 1. Sarah moved. Her body responded with the lightning reflexes developed from years of competitive gaming, enhanced by Earth's higher gravity. She didn't just react to the drones, she predicted their patterns, her mind automatically calculating trajectories and optimal paths. In the observation deck, Marcus nudged Kaya as their classmates gasped. "She's doing the speed-running strat," he whispered, recognizing the techniques from watching Sarah's old tournament videos. Sarah wasn't just completing the course, she was breaking it down like a game level. Each drone had a pattern, each obstacle a specific hitbox. She slid under energy barriers that others carefully stepped around, used momentum to ricochet off walls in ways the designers never intended, and chained movements together in perfect sequence. "Incredible," Administrator Villani murmured, all 4 arms clasped together in astonishment. "She's exploiting course mechanics we didn't even know existed." 7 minutes and 23 seconds after starting, Sarah tagged the final target. The chamber fell silent as the time displayed above her, less than a quarter of the previous record. The silence broke when Marcus stepped up for his turn. Where Sarah had shown precision, Marcus demonstrated adaptability. The simulation threw unexpected scenarios at him. System failures, altered gravity, multiple threats at once. Each time, he made snap decisions that left the instructors baffled. Cadet Rodriguez, one instructor, called out after a particularly unorthodox solution. "The standard protocol for a reactor breach is to initiate containment procedures, not to trigger a controlled overload." Marcus shrugged, grinning as the simulation registered another successful completion. "The way I saw it, I could spend 10 minutes containing it, or 10 seconds using it to neutralize the incoming threats. Time management, right?" But it was Kaya who truly shocked them during the strategic assessment. While other cadets meticulously analyzed current battle conditions, she drew on Earth's military history, finding parallels that no one had considered. "The Vraxen's latest offensive," she explained, pulling up tactical displays, "mirrors the same patterns as Earth's early artificial intelligence in warfare simulations. They're not being creative. They're following optimization algorithms. Look at these fleet movements compared to this ancient chess program's piece placement." The instructor, a veteran of 3 campaigns, studied the comparison with growing amazement. "These patterns, they're nearly identical." As the day's training concluded, the 3 humans found themselves surrounded by curious classmates. Species that had initially kept their distance now pressed closer, asking questions about Earth and human training methods. "Is it true that your planet's wildlife actively hunts you?" asked a floating crystalline being. "Do you really learn combat techniques for entertainment?" inquired a multi-limbed cadet. Sarah exchanged glances with her fellow humans, remembering their briefing about cultural exchange. But before they could answer, a priority alert flashed across every screen in the training center. The Vraxen had launched another offensive, their mechanized fleets moving with characteristic precision. As the other cadets discussed the news with quiet worry, Sarah noticed something in the tactical display, a pattern she'd seen countless times in strategy games. She caught Marcus and Kaya's eyes, seeing the same recognition there. That evening, while their classmates focused on standard combat drills, 3 human cadets began looking at the war in a way no one had before, not as a military campaign, but as the universe's most complex game, waiting to be solved. The Academy's tactical center was a marvel of holographic engineering. 3-dimensional star maps floated in the air, showing fleet movements across dozens of systems. Red markers indicated Vraxen positions, spreading like a mechanical infection through the galaxy's spiral arm. Marcus Rodriguez sat between his fellow human cadets, watching as Admiral Xenevol presented the standard response protocols. The Admiral's silver skin rippled with subtle patterns as she gestured at various fleet formations. The Vraxen advance follows their established patterns, she explained, her 4 arms moving in perfect synchronization. They will deploy their forces in optimal geometric configurations, targeting our supply lines while maintaining defensive coverage. Sarah leaned forward, her gaming pendant catching the light from the holograms. The display reminded her of something. A strategy game she'd played in tournaments, where players had found ways to break seemingly perfect AI opponents. Their responses are predictable, Admiral Xenevol continued. For each of our possible moves, they have calculated the mathematically optimal counter. This has led to our current stalemate. Marcus couldn't help himself. He laughed. The sound echoed through the tactical center. Every alien head turned toward him, expressions ranging from shock to disapproval. Even Sarah and Kaya looked startled. Admiral Xenevol's skin rippled with what humans had learned was curiosity. Cadet Rodriguez, do you find our strategic situation amusing? Marcus straightened in his chair. He could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on him, but 3 years of Earth's junior military academy had taught him to handle pressure. Permission to speak freely. Admiral. Granted. The Admiral's tone held a hint of interest beneath its formal surface. We're fighting them exactly how they want us to fight, Marcus said, standing and walking to the holographic display. Look at these formations. They're perfect, precise, and completely predictable. We're playing their game by their rules. Murmurs of disagreement rippled through the room. A senior tactical officer spoke up. The Vraxen use mathematically optimal strategies. How can there be a better approach? Kaya raised her hand, her historian's mind making connections. In Earth's military history, we learned that optimal isn't always optimal. During our Third World War, AI-driven defense systems were defeated by deliberately suboptimal strategies they couldn't predict. Sarah joined in, pointing to a particular sector. It's like playing against a perfect chess computer. You can't win by playing perfect chess back at it. You have to change the nature of the game. Absurd, one of the veteran commanders declared. This is war, not a game. But Admiral Xenevol's skin had taken on the shimmer that indicated deep thought. Explain further, Cadet Rodriguez. Marcus manipulated the holographic controls, highlighting the Vraxen supply lines. They're cyborgs, right? Part mechanical, part organic. But they think like machines. Everything optimized, everything scheduled. What if instead of attacking their military assets, we target their routines? The room fell silent. For 10 years, the combined tactical minds of the Alliance had approached the war as a series of battles to be won. None had considered targeting the enemy's fundamental nature. A fascinating perspective. Admiral Xenevol said finally, but highly unorthodox. The Alliance Strategic Command would never approve such an unconventional approach without proof of concept. Sarah stepped forward, her eyes bright with the same look she'd had before major tournaments. Then let us prove it. Give us access to the war game simulations. Let us show you how humans would fight this war. The Admiral studied the 3 humans carefully. Her species was known for their cautious, methodical approach to warfare, but they were also known for recognizing opportunities. "Very well," she said finally. "You have 3 days to prepare a demonstration. But be warned, if you fail, this will be noted in your permanent records." As they left the tactical center, Kaya noticed something interesting. Admiral Xenoval's skin had shifted to a pattern she'd never seen before, one that the xenobiologist's handbook hadn't mentioned. It looked remarkably like hope. The Academy's library stretched across an entire orbital ring, its data crystals containing the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. In a quiet study pod near the military history section, 3 humans sat surrounded by holographic displays showing a decade of Vraxan battle records. "There it is again," Kaya said, highlighting a fleet movement pattern. "Look at how they responded to the Arcturus defense. It's exactly like the Kasparov deep blue matches from Earth's history." Sarah leaned forward, her gaming pendant swinging. The movement caught her eye, and suddenly something clicked. "Wait, show me their response times across different engagements." Her fingers flew across the interface, pulling up battle data. A new pattern emerged in the holographic display, a precise rhythm to the Vraxan operations. "They're not just predictable," Sarah breathed. "They're running on loops. Like NPCs in a game, they have action cycles they can't break." Marcus, who had been unusually quiet, stood up and walked to the center of their data cloud. "Computer, overlay maintenance records for all Vraxan fleet movements in the past year." The holographic display shifted, adding a new layer of data. Dots of light showed thousands of maintenance operations across space and time. "I knew it," he said, grinning. "They're not just maintaining their ships, they're maintaining themselves. These cyborgs need regular technical service, just like any machine." Kaya's eyes widened as she made the connection. The historical parallels aren't just in their tactics. They're showing the same weaknesses as every automated system Earth ever built. They're slaves to their own protocols. A quiet chime indicated someone entering their study space. Admiral Xenoval glided in, her silver skin reflecting the holographic lights. "Cadets, you've been at this for 30 hours straight. Even for Deathworlders, that seems excessive." "Admiral," Sarah said, straightening up, "we've found something. The Vraxan aren't just fighting a war. They're running a massive maintenance schedule. Every ship, every cyborg, every system has to follow exact protocols." Marcus manipulated the display, highlighting specific patterns. "Look at their fleet movements during major battles. They never engage if it would disrupt their maintenance windows. Even their attacks are timed around these cycles." "Most species need maintenance and rest," the Admiral observed, but her skin patterns showed growing interest. "But most species can adapt," Kaya countered. "They can delay maintenance when needed. The Vraxan can't. They're locked into these patterns at a fundamental level." Sarah stood up, her eyes bright despite her exhaustion. "It's like the oldest rule in gaming. Every system has an exploit. The Vraxan's strength is their perfect coordination, but that's also their weakness. They've optimized themselves so completely that they've lost all flexibility." Admiral Xenoval studied the displays, her 4 arms moving in complex patterns as she processed the information. "You believe this is their vulnerability. Their maintenance schedules." "More than that," Marcus said. "We think it's the key to ending the war. But we'll need access to more detailed tactical simulations to prove it." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, her skin shifting through patterns of deep thought. Finally, she spoke. "What you're suggesting goes against every principle of conventional warfare. To target an enemy's basic maintenance routines would be considered unconventional by Alliance standards." "With respect, Admiral," Kaya said, pulling up more historical references, "unconventional warfare is a human specialty. Earth's history is full of conflicts won by targeting logistics rather than direct military assets." Admiral Xenoval's skin displayed a pattern they'd never seen before, a rapid shimmer that seemed to indicate excitement. "You have my attention, Cadets. Show me your full analysis in the tactical simulator tomorrow." if your theory holds." She paused, her skin settling into a determined pattern. "Well, let's see what you find first." As the Admiral left, the three humans shared a look. They had less than 24 hours to turn their theory into a workable strategy. But for the first time since the war began, someone was looking at the Vraxan Empire and seeing not an invincible force, but a system waiting to be crashed. The Academy's premier simulation chamber hummed with energy as the highest-ranking officers filed into the observation deck. Sarah's fingers moved swiftly across the control panel, loading the scenarios they'd spent all night preparing. Behind her, Marcus and Kaya made final adjustments to their presentation. "Distinguished officers of the Alliance," Admiral Zeneval began, her silver skin gleaming under the chamber's lights. "These cadets believe they have found a new approach to the Vraxan conflict. I request you observe with an open mind." Sarah stepped forward, her gaming pendant catching the light. "The simulation will demonstrate how we can exploit the Vraxans' rigid maintenance schedules." "Computer, initialize Scenario Alpha." The chamber transformed into a vast star map. Red markers showed Vraxan fleet positions across 3 sectors, moving with mechanical precision. "Current military doctrine focuses on engaging their forces directly," Kaya explained, highlighting traditional battle lines. "But notice their movement patterns during standard engagements." Marcus took control of the simulation, accelerating time to show fleet movements over several battles. They never deviate from their maintenance windows. Even during critical battles, ships will withdraw exactly on schedule. A general raised his hand, his crystalline form refracting light. "We've observed this behavior, yes. It's one of their weaknesses, but their overwhelming numbers make it irrelevant." Sarah smiled. "That's what they want us to think." "Computer, run tactical pattern Echo 7. The simulation shifted, showing a new deployment of Alliance forces. Instead of meeting Vraxan fleets in direct combat, small strike teams appeared near maintenance facilities across all 3 sectors. "The Vraxan are cyborgs," Sarah continued. "Their organic parts require precise mechanical support at regular intervals. They've optimized these schedules across their entire empire, like clockwork." The simulation played out. Alliance forces struck multiple maintenance hubs simultaneously, not to destroy them, but to disrupt their scheduling systems. "Watch what happens," Marcus said, his voice tight with excitement. On the display, Vraxan ships began behaving erratically. As their maintenance schedules shifted, entire fleets diverted from battle lines. Command centers initiated emergency protocols. "Their entire military operates on a single, synchronized schedule," Kaya explained. "Disrupt enough maintenance hubs, and the desynchronization cascades through their whole system." The simulation showed Vraxan forces falling into disarray. Ships withdrew from engagements as their crews required emergency maintenance. Command centers went offline during critical moments as their cyborg commanders entered forced maintenance cycles. Admiral Zeneval's skin rippled with interest. "The numbers are impressive, but the Vraxan would adapt their strategies." "That's just it," Sarah said, pulling up detailed behavior logs. "They can't. Their optimization is hard-coded. Like an NPC in a game, they have to follow their programming." The chamber fell silent as the simulation reached its conclusion. In less than an hour of simulated time, the mighty Vraxan war machine had ground to a halt, not from direct combat, but from the cascade of maintenance disruptions. "Impossible," one commander muttered. "No military force could be so vulnerable to such a simple strategy." "That's because you're thinking like military strategists," Marcus replied. "We're thinking like humans who grew up outsmarting machines." Kaya stepped forward, pulling up historical references. Earth's history is full of examples where rigid, optimized systems were defeated by unpredictable, adaptive opponents. The Vraxan made themselves perfect, and that's their fatal flaw. Admiral Zeneval studied the final simulation data, her skin showing patterns of deep calculation. Finally, she turned to the assembled officers. "The simulation data is clear. This strategy has a 97% chance of success. with minimal Alliance casualties. The chamber erupted in discussion. Officers debated the tactical implications, the strategic risks, the potential consequences. But through it all, 3 human cadets stood confident. They had done what they did best, found the pattern, spotted the exploit, and changed the rules of the game. The Admiral's skin shifted to that rare pattern of hope again. Cadets, prepare a detailed operational plan. I believe it's time to show the Vraxen that perfection has its price. The Alliance flagship Stellar Dawn hung in space like a silver arrow, its bridge alive with activity. Holographic displays showed hundreds of small strike teams positioned across Vraxen space, each waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Sarah stood at the central tactical station, her fingers dancing across the controls as she fine-tuned the timing calculations. The gaming pendant around her neck felt heavy with purpose. This was the biggest game she'd ever played, and the stakes were astronomical. Strike Team Alpha reports ready. Marcus called from his station. He'd spent the last week personally briefing each team on their precise roles. All ships' confirmed stealth systems are operating at peak efficiency. Kaya monitored the Vraxen activity feeds, watching their clockwork movements across the Empire. Maintenance cycles are proceeding exactly as predicted. Their central processing hub will begin its standard update sequence in 15 minutes. Admiral Zeneval's skin rippled with subtle patterns of anticipation as she studied the tactical display. To think, after a decade of war, victory might come not through force of arms, but through precise timing. Sarah nodded, making a final adjustment to the coordination matrix. That's what makes it beautiful, Admiral. Every maintenance hub they built, every optimization they made to their systems, it all just makes them more vulnerable to this. The bridge crew, a mix of species from across the Alliance, worked with focused precision. Many had been skeptical when told their battle plan had been devised by cadets, but the simulation results had convinced even the staunchest critics. 12 minutes to synchronization, Kaya announced, uploading final timing sequences to all strike teams. Marcus brought up the master strategy display, showing all the target points across Vraxen space. Remember, timing is everything. Each team has a 3-second window to initiate their disruption sequence. Too early or too late, and the cascade effect fails. Sarah's hands moved steadily across her console, coordinating the thousands of variables they'd discovered in their research. Every Vraxen maintenance cycle, every system update, every cybernetic enhancement protocol, all had to be targeted in perfect sequence. 9 minutes. Kaya called out. Vraxen patrols maintaining standard patterns. No indication they've detected our presence. Admiral Zeneval turned to Sarah. Cadet Chen, once we begin, there will be no going back. Are you certain about this timing? Sarah's fingers paused for just a moment. She thought about all the tournaments she'd won, all the strategy games she'd mastered. None of them compared to this. Yes, Admiral. In games, in war, and in life, timing is everything. 6 minutes. Kaya's voice was steady. Vraxen Central Hub beginning preliminary update procedures. Marcus checked the strike team readiness one final time. All teams report optimal positioning. Disruption packages primed and ready. 4 minutes. The tension on the bridge was palpable. Vraxen maintenance crews beginning final pre-update checks. Sarah took a deep breath, remembering late nights of gaming where split-second timing meant the difference between victory and defeat. This was just another speed run, she told herself, just with slightly higher stakes. 3 minutes to launch, Kaya announced. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of equipment. Admiral Zeneval's skin showed a complex pattern that none of the humans had seen before. A mixture of hope, determination, and something else. Perhaps it was the recognition that history was about to change. 2 minutes. Sarah's fingers hovered over the master control panel. Years of competitive gaming had taught her that the moments before a major play were often more stressful than the execution itself. 1 minute. Marcus straightened at his station. Everything they'd learned about tactics, timing, and teamwork had led to this moment. 30 seconds. Kaya watched the Vraxan systems begin their update sequence, exactly as predicted. Sarah closed her eyes for just a moment, feeling the weight of the gaming pendant against her chest. When she opened them, her gaze was locked on the countdown display. 10 seconds to synchronization, she announced, her voice clear and confident. All teams stand by to initiate Operation Monkey Wrench. Execute, Sarah commanded, her fingers pressing the activation sequence with the same precision that had won her countless tournaments. Across Vraxan space, Alliance strike teams launched their attacks simultaneously, not with weapons of mass destruction or overwhelming force, but with carefully crafted disruption signals targeting maintenance scheduling systems. First wave impact in 3, 2, 1. Kaya watched as the initial reports flooded in. Confirmed hits on 17 primary maintenance hubs. The tactical display erupted with status changes. Red dots representing Vraxan ships began shifting positions erratically, their perfect formations wavering for the first time in the war's history. Secondary cascade initiating, Marcus announced, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Maintenance protocols failing across 3 sectors, 5 sectors, 8 sectors. Admiral Zeneval's skin rippled with amazement as she watched the Vraxan response. They're trying to compensate by rerouting maintenance schedules, exactly as you predicted. Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on the spreading chaos. They can't help themselves. Their programming forces them to prioritize maintenance over everything else. Watch what happens when the tertiary systems get hit. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the mighty Vraxan war machine began to unravel. Ships scheduled for routine maintenance suddenly broke formation, their cyborg crews unable to override their basic protocols. Command centers initiated emergency shutdowns as their leaders entered forced maintenance cycles. Enemy flagship detected attempting to coordinate a response, Kaya reported, studying the data streams. But their communication networks are fragmenting as relay stations go offline for unscheduled updates. Marcus highlighted a particular sector on the tactical display. Look at their planetary defense grid. The backup systems are trying to take over, but they're running into the same maintenance conflicts. 23 minutes since implementation, Sarah announced, tracking the cascade's progress. Disruption has reached 97% of targeted systems. A message flashed across the main screen. The first direct communication from the Vraxan Empire in the war's history. Admiral Zeneval's skin showed surprise patterns as she read it aloud. They're requesting a cessation of hostilities to address critical system maintenance requirements. She turned to the human cadets. In 10 years of war, they've never requested anything. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They can't adapt their way out of this. Their entire society is built on perfect synchronization, and we've just thrown their clocks off by random intervals. It would take months to realign their maintenance schedules. 35 minutes since implementation, Kaya noted. Vraxan military effectiveness has dropped below operational thresholds in all sectors. The tactical display told the story. The once perfect formations were in complete disarray. Ships drifted in space, their crews locked in maintenance cycles. Command centers fell silent one by one as their systems forced updates at critical moments. 42 minutes, Marcus called out. Last organized resistance has ceased in the outer sectors. They're actually powering down their weapons to divert energy to maintenance systems. At 47 minutes after the operation began, a second message arrived from the Vraxan High Command. Admiral Zeneval's skin rippled with patterns of disbelief as she read it. They're offering unconditional surrender, pending the restoration of their maintenance schedules. The bridge erupted in cheers. Species from 100 worlds celebrated together as the reality sank in. The war was over. Not with a massive battle, not with devastating casualties, but with the elegant exploitation of a simple truth. Even the most perfect system has its breaking point. Sarah touched her gaming pendant, thinking of all the tournaments that had prepared her for this moment. Beside her, Marcus grinned with the satisfaction of a tactician whose unconventional plan had worked perfectly. Kaya was already documenting everything for future history books. Admiral Zeneval turned to the three humans, her skin showing that now familiar pattern of hope, but brighter than ever before. 47 minutes, she said softly. You ended a decade-long war in 47 minutes. I believe this sets a new record. Sarah looked at her fellow cadets and smiled. Well, Admiral, she said, we humans have always been good at speed runs. 1 month after the surrender, the Academy's Grand Hall was filled with representatives from across the Alliance. The crystalline dome above showed the swirling colors of the Centauri Nebula, a backdrop to what many were calling the most significant graduation ceremony in Alliance history. Sarah Chen stood with Marcus Rodriguez and Kaya Williams at the center of the stage, their cadet uniforms replaced with the formal dress of Alliance officers. Admiral Zeneval approached the podium, her silver skin displaying patterns of pride and celebration. Today we honor not just these individuals, the Admiral began, but a new way of thinking. These humans showed us that victory doesn't always require superior firepower or overwhelming numbers. Sometimes, it simply requires looking at a problem from an entirely new perspective. In the audience, representatives from 100 worlds watched with newfound respect. Species that had once viewed humans as primitive deathworlders now saw something different. Beings whose greatest strength wasn't their physical adaptations, but their ability to think differently. The success of Operation Monkey Wrench has led to a complete revision of our tactical doctrine. Admiral Zeneval continued. We've learned that sometimes the most effective solution isn't the most obvious one. The Vraxan Empire, in its quest for perfection, became predictable. These cadets saw that predictability not as a minor weakness, but as a critical flaw. Sarah touched her gaming pendant, thinking of all the tournaments that had prepared her for that crucial moment. Beside her, Marcus stood tall, no longer the jokester but a respected tactical innovator. Kaya held a data crystal containing her detailed documentation of their strategy, already being incorporated into the Academy's curriculum. But perhaps more significant than the military victory, the Admiral's skin shifted to show deeper patterns, is what came after. The Vraxan, once our greatest enemy, are now engaged in meaningful dialogue with the Alliance for the first time in their history. The holographic displays showed images from the ongoing peace talks. The Vraxan, their cybernetic systems now operating on more flexible protocols, had begun to rediscover the value of adaptability. Their rigid society was slowly learning to embrace change rather than fear it. These cadets didn't just end a war, Admiral Zeneval said, her voice carrying through the hall. They showed us that diversity of thought, the ability to question established patterns, and the courage to propose unconventional solutions are perhaps the greatest strengths any species can possess. The Admiral turned to the three humans, her skin displaying a new pattern, one that the xenobiologists had recently classified as profound respect. Sarah Chen, your understanding of patterns and timing turned a hobby into a war-winning strategy. Marcus Rodriguez, your willingness to question established doctrine opened our eyes to new possibilities. Kaya Williams, your knowledge of history helped us understand not just our enemy, but ourselves. The ceremony continued with the presentation of medals and commissions, but the real reward was in the changes they could see around them. The Academy's training programs now emphasized creative problem-solving alongside traditional tactics. Species that had once kept to themselves now collaborated regularly, sharing unique perspectives and approaches. As the ceremony concluded, the three friends found a quiet moment together near the same viewport where their journey had begun. You know what's funny? Marcus said, looking out at the stars. We ended up teaching them more about being human than being soldiers. Sarah nodded, watching ships of various designs move harmoniously through space. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to be stronger or faster. Sometimes it's just about seeing the pattern that everyone else missed. And sometimes, Kaya added, holding up her data crystal, the most important lessons are the ones that challenge everything we think we know. Admiral Zeneval approached them, her skin showing that now familiar pattern of hope. The Alliance Council has a new assignment for you three, if you're interested. It seems there are other challenges out there that might benefit from a human perspective. The three friends exchanged glances, matching smiles spreading across their faces. Their victory hadn't just ended a war. It had opened up a whole new way of thinking about the universe and their place in it. After all, as any gamer knows, beating the final boss just means you're ready for the next level.